And welcome back to another devotion. I am Pastor Roy Carlin here at Woodlawn Christian Church in Lake City, Iowa, and this devotion is for Thursday, May 1st of 2025. It's May Day. A happy May Day to you. I don't know if anybody does May baskets anymore, but hopefully maybe somebody brought you one today. My children used to do that. They loved it when they were little. I don't think people do that much anymore. That's a sad deal. A sad tradition lost. But at any rate, we are in the book of Acts, and Tuesday we made it to chapter 14. We looked at the first 7 verses there. Paul and Barnabas were driven out of Iconium at that time. They were doing great. They were there for a while. We don't know exactly how long, but they were there for a while. But then those troublemakers that seemed to pursue Paul and Barnabas came along and caused trouble for them, got them run out of town before they were stoned, and they move on down the road. So with that, let's pick up at verse 8. We're going to go to 18. We won't quite get through their visit to Lystra here that we're talking about today. We'll have a little bit more about that next week. The culmination of their visit, I guess, or the completion of their visit, or what gets them driven out of town again, I guess we'll say it. But here, let's talk about verses 8 to 18. Now at Lystra, there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was a cripple from birth, who had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking, and Paul, looking intently at him and seeing that he had faith to be made well, said in a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." And he sprang up and walked. And when the crowd saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in Lycaonian, "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men." Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul, because he was the chief speaker, they called Hermes. And the priest of Zeus, whose temple was in the front of the city, brought oxen and garlands to the gates and wanted to offer sacrifice with the people. But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments and rushed out among the multitude, crying, "Men, why are you doing this? We also are men, of like nature with you, and bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. In past generations he allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways. Yet he did not leave himself without witness. For he did good and gave you from heaven rains and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness." With these words, they scarcely restrained the people from offering sacrifice to them. Okay, now right out of the gate, this sounds very similar, very reminiscent of that gate called Beautiful back earlier in Acts when Peter and John cured the cripple. Likewise, there, not able to walk from birth. And again, an extraordinary miracle, as we talked about back then, because not having ever been able to ever having walked, he would have no bone strength. Start off with the inside, the bones. There'd be no ligaments, tendon strength. There'd be none. Musculature. There would be no muscle to speak of in his legs. He would have no strength of any form to stand on. Weak bones, weak joints, weak ligaments, weak muscles, right down the line. And if you've ever worked with building strength and working out, you understand that. And he's not having walked from birth. He just has no infrastructure to work with. And yet, Paul says, get up on your feet. And he doesn't just stand up wobbling. He sprang up. That's wow. Wow is all I can say. And the people there know this is a wow. They realize these things. They've seen this guy not being able to walk his whole life there. He's no stranger to town. He's been sitting there. And they think Paul and Barnabas are gods. And they're just convinced these guys are Zeus and Hermes come down from the heavens. Now it's interesting here. They call Barnabas Zeus and Paul Hermes. It tells us why. Paul's the chief speaker. By this time, Paul's kind of moved into the forefront of being at least the main speaker. But there is some tradition, church tradition, that Paul wasn't a particularly good-looking guy. May have been a little bit smaller in stature. And there is some tradition that Barnabas and Apollos also, that they were good-looking guys. And thus, they probably, the better-looking guy is going to be Zeus, of course, because Zeus is supposed to be just a Greek god, for crying out loud. At any rate, so even the priest of Zeus as coming out to worship them. Now, this tips us off that this must be a more pagan area. There's no mention here at all of a synagogue. That's their normal modus operandi, as we've talked about, is to go to the synagogues and to preach and to try to bring in those pagans, those God-fearers, those people that are pagan nature or heritage that have become followers of the God of Abraham. And to really pick those guys off and bring them into the fold of this Christian movement. But no mention of that here. Here they're bringing in brand new people, it appears. People that are coming all the way from pagan worship into Christianity. That's really quite something. There's no intermediary. There's no prep work done. They're just boom right in. So Paul, you got to hand it to Paul. He is speaking and must, we typically think of him as just being a writer and not particularly gifted in orientation. And that's mostly Paul saying that he's not a gifted orator. Probably some modesty there. But nonetheless, here they are taken back when they are being identified as gods because just like Peter with Cornelius, when Cornelius, excuse me, when Cornelius wanted to worship him, he's horrified by that. And unlike Herod, back when Herod gave a speech, and everybody was like, "Hey, the voice of a God and not of a man," and he got eaten by worms. Paul and Barnabas they are modest. They understand that the real power of the only power is God. It's not about man. It's all about the Spirit. That any ability they have to convince or to portray this movement is given to them by God. It's all from God. And I would caution you, if you're involved in a church movement where it's all about the pastor, it's all about the leader, he's this charismatic guy. You don't have to worry about that with Pastor Roy. This charismatic guy that's all that, and everybody's all excited about the pastor. It's not about the pastor. It's about Jesus. It's about God. The focus of everything should not be on the music. It should not be on whatever, even the architecture in the building. If all of these things become the focus, then it's not about God. That's why the early Baptists, they eschewed music and liturgy and even pretty buildings. Everything was just plain box white because it was all about God. They weren't totally wrong by any means. Some of those things help us to focus on God, but if it becomes the thing, then that's not right. That's not good. If you leave a church because you don't like the tempo of the music, it probably isn't. You're probably leaving for the wrong word. If you leave because you're not being fed the right message, if you're being fed something that's not true doctrine, not the true gospel, I should say. Doctrine, gospel, the good news of Christ. Well, that's one thing, but that's the only thing. But otherwise, it's not about the splash and the gore, if they want to say it that way. It's not the light show and the music and all of that. It's about the message. The message is about Jesus, and that's what Paul's projecting to them about Jesus. And of course, I'm recording this during the time of Easter. Really the season we focus on the resurrection, we focus on the substitutional sacrifice, we focus on the fact that Jesus came into the world to live and to die for us, that we too might be able to gain entrance into God's presence. Because without him, we can't make the cut, as they say. That's what I've got for you today. We'll pick up on the 6th of May, and then I'll record that one ahead of time. And also, I record them all ahead of time, basically, but not so far ahead. So I'll record that one for the 6th and the 8th here later this week, and I'll have them up. They'll pop up on those days for you to watch. Have a blessed day. If you enjoy these devotions, please do like and subscribe. Come on back again. We'd love to see you. Take care. God bless. Be a blessing to someone today. God loves you. Bye-bye.